viewers, welcome to D Academy. Today we are going to discuss here about JVM. So let's focus in deep about how JVM works. So we'll start first why JVM came, then its internal architecture, then we'll pick one class file, how it will get executed. So as I mentioned, first we'll focus why JVM. So with YJVM there are three major reasons. Some other reasons are also there. We'll focus on the major reasons why it came. So first is memory security. When we used to do programming with the C or C++ language, we used to use pointer, which were nothing pointing directly to our OS system, which is nothing but they were giving direct address exposed to the program or the customer or the user, we can say that. So that's the main thing, because if you access the memory address, you will be access to anything in the system. So for that purpose, JVM has built its own layer instead of connecting directly to the OS and added this functionality of pointer internally. So whatever our program will run, it will run on the JVM memory instead of running on the OS local memory. So that's the first reason which we can mention as a memory security. Second, we will focus, before writing only let me tell you that if you wish, you want to run your program anywhere, any system or any platform, that we can mention as a platform independent, which is nothing but you will write the program on Windows system that will get executed on any other system as well. So the reason behind that is the .class file. So .class file is the reason your program is runnable to any other platform as well. So that's the feature provided by the JVM, which we can mention as a platform independent. Third is nothing but JIT, which is nothing but just-in-time compiler. So normal compiler, what it will do, it will interpret our bytecode to machine code. So just-in-time compiler, what it will do, if that program or that method or that class is getting reused number of times, so that time what it will do, it will just compile it once, bytecode to machine code, and it will store it to its local cache. So which will be reused, so there is no process of again and again interpreting the same code. So that's another one feature of JVM. Okay, so these are the three major reasons why JVM came into the picture, with respect to security, with respect to the platform independence, and with respect to the compiling the code. Okay, so let's come to the JVM architecture. We'll focus on that. So JVM architecture, again, it has divided into three parts so that it will be understandable for our level as well. So three parts is nothing but first is class loader system, second is memory area, and third is execution engine. So we'll focus first on class loader system. So by name itself we can identify it is class related every activity. Before executing it, we are trying to get into our machine. So in class loader system, the class file, .class file which has executed, that will be as an input to class loader system. So again in that, how it will read the actual class file, that again it has divided into three parts. So we'll focus on the first one, which is nothing but loading. So in loading, whatever class related things are there which will get loaded into the system. So in that again, if we focus exactly what are all the things, we can say that bootstrap loader, second extension loader, third is nothing but application loader. So let's focus on the first one, Bootstrap loader. So in Bootstrap loader, what the things will get loaded. So in Bootstrap loader, whatever required as a runtime part for the JVM, those files and those classes will get loaded from the file called rt.jar. So suppose if you are getting an error when you are executing your program, rt.jar is missing or something, so that time you can identify it is like main core files and core libraries which are required also not loaded into the system. That's the thing. Second, we'll focus on the extension loader. Extension loader is nothing but Java runtime required libraries to execute the program, which are like stored in the folder JRE. So for your program, whatever runtime required library is there, that will get loaded from the extension loader. Okay. Third, we'll focus on the application loader. So application loader, like when it come into the picture, suppose you are using in your program some other class program files or some other class functions that you are using. So that time those class should be get loaded. That's the reason it has mentioned that application. It is like from some other application we are loading into our applications. So these are the three things will happen when our .class file is as an input in a class loader system as a first part. Still more to go. Second, linking. So linking is nothing but now we got everything in our system, like what is a runtime environment, variables, runtime libraries, and if any other dependency with other application, that also we got. Now like how to relate these things with each other. So which is nothing but it comes into the linking part. So in linking part, again there are three subparts, which is like verify, prepare, third is resolve. Okay. So in verify, the first thing is like whatever class file has came, it has a bytecode. It's like after compiling, whatever the bytecode is there, that bytecode generated is correct or not. So that verification will be done in the verify part. Okay. So after that, in prepare part, if you see in prepare part, so it is getting prepared to allocate everything properly. In prepare part, it will identify what are all the static variables and what are all the default values which you require to allocate before executing the program. And third is resolve. Resolve is nothing but if your program has some defined values or final values in your program before the execution start or the functionality start. So those initialization will get executed in this resolve part. So the last part remaining from the class loader system is nothing but initialization. Initialization, by the name itself, you can understand that some initialization of if your program is perspective, variables and all, but that all has done already in the linking system. So in initialization, whatever static block are there or static variable allocation is there, that will happen in the initialization part. So there are two methods, okay, two static method you have defined in your program. Those will get executed at initialization itself, okay. So there is no more in initialization part, only static. So second major part, like where this program will get stored in the system actually, which is nothing but the memory area. So again this memory area has divided into the 5 parts so that it will be understandable to me as well and this compiler as well. Memory area. So there are 5 parts again in that. One is like method area, second is stack area, third is heap area, fourth is like native method area, and fifth is like PC registers. So we look into this one by one, how our program will get placed in all these memory areas. method area. So when our class file is getting into this JVM block, it will get stored in the method area, and as well as whatever the static block and static variables are there globally declared, those will come and under this method area. Okay, that is the initial stage. Class file, static variable as well as methods. So it will come and it will get placed into the method area. Now second is like stack area. Start on this stack area as well. So how this stack area works. So stack area is nothing but it has specially designed for to check like what is running at the current stage. You can say that. So for each thread there will be one stack block allocated. T1 is nothing but I am just pointing as a thread. Okay. So for each thread there will be a running stack memory will allocated. So in this stack memory, how it is exactly managing all the functions, we can see that. So this stack memory is again having 3 blocks. So I am just taking this out little bigger. So this stack memory, each layer has again 3 parts. One is like local variable arguments. Second is like operand stack. Third is like frame data. Okay, so these are like again a stack. Each layer will again have 3 parts: local variable argument and operand stack, and then the frame data. Okay. So whichever the current block is running, that block will come. So whichever the current instruction are getting run, method which are running, that will come onto the stack. All the internal statements will get executed. Then once the execution is done, that block will get fogged out from the stack. So the next instruction will come again. So this is what how stack area works. So we covered 2, still 3 more to go. So we completed like method area where our class file and the static variable, static method will get stored. Second is like our stack area where the how actual instruction, runtime instruction, how it will get executed. Third is like heap area. So heap area, what it is stored. So heap area is like to store the reference objects, the program objects, whichever you have created in the program, those all will get stored on the heap area. Okay. Fourth one is like native method area. In native method area, we know that native methods are some of the programs or files which are written in some other languages, which are required in a runtime to execute our program. Okay, so those will get loaded from this native method area which are required. Fifth is like nothing but PC registers. So this is little deep into for executing this each instruction which are on stack. So PC register it will track which instruction should be executed next. So it will check for the instruction counts, like which instruction need to get executed next. So these are 5 areas in JVM architecture of memory area. As we mentioned, method area, stack area, heap area, PC register, and Java native method area. So this is how internally our class file get divided in other different blocks of this memory. So now we came the path till we loaded everything in our system, we linked everything in the system. Third is like we have allocated memories for each individual based on their categories, like if they are like static variables, static class, that we are placing in the method area, which are like currently we want to execute, that we are taking on the stack with each thread. Third is nothing but heap area, where we are keeping our all references in the class file which are available. Fourth is like native method area, whatever the native methods require as a runtime to execute our program. Fifth is a PC register to track which instruction is getting executed and which to be executed next. So these all came under memory. Now the third is like everything we are ready now with the loading and with even memory allocation. Now the part is like execution part. So we'll focus on the execution part. Third is execution engine. So now what happened in the execution engine? In execution engine, whatever bytecode we have, we are ready with it. Whatever memories areas are there, we are ready with that. So in execution engine, first it will interpret our bytecode to machine code, which using interpreter. So first main block in execution engine is like interpreter. So interpreter, it will convert our bytecode to machine code. Bytecode to machine code. Then after that, machine code, it will be ready for get executed on the system. So second is like as a part of execution engine, just-in-time compiler is there. So what it will do? It will use this interpreter. It will convert the bytecode into machine code for those program or for those classes which are getting reused or which are getting used multiple times. So instead of interpreting those code again and again to save the time and reusability of this machine code, we will use just-in-time compiler. So when this JIT will come into the picture. So if we think of web services will get compiled once and used many times. So that time they will hold this machine code in their cache memory and they will reuse it whenever required. So whenever you are calling web service, instead of going to the interpreter again bytecode to machine code, it will just pick the machine code of that class or that program. So how it will identify that code is used multiple times or not? So just-in-time compiler having one factor called profiling. So profile. This will identify that program or that class is getting executed multiple times or not. If that flag is true, then it will pass the code to get executed from GIT instead of going to interpreter. So these are coming into the execution engine. So this is all about JVM and its internal architecture. So hope you guys like it, and if it is understandable, that is like more good for us to listen from you guys. So please comment. And I was not able to draw the architecture of JVM on this board, so I am attaching it with the video details. Please find it and comment us back. Thank you.